And welcome back to Open Studio. I'm Steve Leahy. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this. Now, if you have been following with the premieres, as these things have been going live, you will notice a huge gap, about 5 weeks worth of gap actually. So we had a bunch of stuff happen at home, a place where I grew up with family, and had to kind of go and help out with that. So that's why the gap is there. But thank you for hanging in there and welcome back. If you're watching this after the fact and you're just binging them, you will not notice the difference. It'll just be one after the other, which is awesome. All right. Now that that PSA is done, let's get back to it. Yeah, again, for me, it's been about, it's been about almost 2 months since I've worked on this. But like any, kind of painting, I kind of do them the same way, especially cars. So for me to jump back into this is actually pretty easy. I'm just going to kind of continue on, so it doesn't take too much to get back into it. What I've left out is this bottom area between the, not left out, but I haven't done it yet, is this bottom area where the exhaust, between the exhaust, it looks like a plastic skirt underneath the body of the guitar. There we go. The car. The other interesting thing that I just noticed too, that I haven't even taken into account, is there is basically a black stripe that goes across the hood and the whole car basically. So I got to work on that too. All right, so let's get the bottom section done here, and then that'll be a good start. I think that's big enough to airbrush. Yeah, because if I paint that, it might not. If I paint that in, it might not be real smooth because of the way the paintbrush works. So you guys are, unfortunately, for the palette, well, I can turn the palette cam on and off too. So I'll be able to cut this out here so you can see it. We won't need the palette for a minute. This blade might not be too good, but we're going to give it a shot, because what could go wrong? If I have to change the blade, I can do that too. But for now, we're just going to go for this. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the whole plastic valance, or the plastic skirt here, including the exhaust pipes. Now I've already got the exhaust pipes kind of laid out in there, but this will connect any gaps that might have appeared. Like, see that little red gap over here, right down there? So this will correct that at the same time. I got to put the brighter details in where the exhaust pipe is and the highlights on this skirt anyway, so it doesn't really matter if I just kind of like cut out the whole thing. There we go. I missed you guys. This premiere thing has been a blast, and I had about 3 of them set up in advance for my trip, but when the trip kept going and going, I was just out of luck. I didn't have enough, and I don't have all the cool cameras on the road and all that fun stuff, so I really couldn't get much done with this on the road. But like I said, I'm back now. All right. What else can I do here? So this is going to be a black, kind of a dark gray maybe. So I'm kind of looking around the painting here and seeing if there's anything else I can put in. Yeah. Let's put the dark outline around the rear deck window. We'll drop that in too, and that is building up there. So there's a reflection in the car right here. I know this is a little bit out of focus here, but because I want to leave this in focus over here, but you'll get the idea. So there is a black trim around the inside of the window. So since I'll have black in the brush and I've already got the blue on the window, the base color, I can just kind of throw this in. Now there is a pretty strong reflection of the building that this car was kind of backed up against. I'm going to take that out. I don't want the building in there because it just doesn't help with the story at all. Okay, so I got that. And then on the other side of the window up here, you can barely see it because, again, it's out of focus. But it's got another little outline here. On this one here, and even on the other one, I could just use the paintbrush. But again, because I'll have black in the brush, it's just as easy to kind of like get it started with the airbrush, since I'm in the ballpark anyway. The other thing I can start thinking about maybe are the wheels. Do I want to do that? No. But I will get the inside of the wheel well done because, like, I don't want to do the wheels yet because they have a different color to them. They're kind of a, I don't know, like a brownish black. And what I'm going to be kind of aiming with these plastic parts is kind of a bluish black. So again, the laziness wants to kick in and just use the same black for everything. But again, for these guys here, for any of these paintings that are just like all out, that's what makes them. So it makes it to have that variation in the black. Where on a, in a quicker painting, I could do them all the same color black, the same, the same tone black, and it really wouldn't make a big deal. But on something like this, where I'm kind of going all out, that little detail, having that variation in just those blacks, really kind of makes it look more realistic instead of, kind of forced, which using a really simple palette, like a palette without a lot of colors in it, it can look like that. And, I want to avoid that. So I did the black and the wheel wells above. That's going to work out. And again, you'll see it a little bit better when I get it over here. I have the camera at a little bit more of an extreme angle so that I'm not bumping into it. I know it seems like every episode I'm trying to find the perfect spot for the camera, and I have not found it yet. It's just funny because it's so close. The camera's so close. Even with the macro lens that I have, I need to get a magnet ready for this because when I get it lined up, I don't want it to move. So I'm going to start with this back corner here. It's a good place to kind of get lined up first. And then what I can do is I can look at the wheel well and I can kind of look around on this till, look through that little opening right there in the wheel well that I cut out so that I know that's lined up. And then once I have it pretty much where I think I need to have it, I just kind of like look at it for a second and then let it flip down. So I'm looking at you can't see the blade underneath because of the angle, but I'm looking at the blade right now. Just stare at it for a second and then let this flip back down, and it helps me to see if it's like really lined up. Because for a split second, I'll still kind of have the vision or the image of the blade. That's interesting. I'm going to check this out too, because I don't understand why I'm seeing it some red there, but we're going to look at that in a second. So to make sure that this doesn't move, because that part is in a good spot, even that up there too. So I want to really make sure that I've got this in the right spot. Yeah, I do. Okay. Now that I've got that there, I can kind of drop a couple magnets in where they need to be. I can't put a ton of magnets, obviously, because the size is so small, but this is going to work. For this, I think I'm just going to use straight black because the highlights on this I will add after with a white. What do I want to do here? Okay. I can turn the palette cam back on now. I don't know if I'll get to, well, maybe I'll get to the palette today. So what I've got here is, this is opaque black, and this is reduced a lot. This is reduced 1 part paint to 10 parts 4011 reducer, if you're keeping track of the kind of paints that I use. And again, I say it all the time that I reduce for the airbrush more than what I'm doing. So this is the Micron B again. It's a super tiny brush, and it just likes the paint really, really thin. So I do what it says. The other thing I want to grab is it's one of my handy dandy hold down tools, which is really just a bamboo meat skewer. And just want to kind of lightly paint this in. Lightly meaning as you can't see it, sorry. Lightly as if I'm, not doing a ton of layers. Why don't we do this? Since I'm doing this part and I didn't really count on doing this part. We'll move this over here, like that. That's lovely. Then you can see what I'm doing. How about that? Make sure we are locked in with the focus. Good. Okay. So again, these little meat skewers are fantastic for holding little bits of the template down. super inexpensive. You can carve them in any shape you want. I use these things a lot for a lot of different things, for cleaning the airbrushes. And this works really well because, you know, getting my, you can't see it again, sorry. There we go, I'll try to get my fingers out of the way. There we go. So again, trying to hold this down with my fingers would be tough. So this makes it so much easier. And I can hold it at an angle, like right down on the copy, so that I can get a lot of the edge of that template held down. And then what I'm doing is, well, hopefully my finger wasn't in the way for that, but what I'm doing is, so there's the opening on the opening here, right? And I'm using the hold down tool to basically hold the top edge of that down. The reason why I'm not worried about the bottom edge is because the air from the airbrush is holding the bottom edge down, because I'm kind of going at it this way. So it's nice. I really only have to hold one side down. Okay, so if my big fat fingers are in the way for that, they won't be for this part. So for the wheel well, it's the same thing. I'm going to be spraying against this side of the template. So I don't have to hold the, you know, the right-hand side down. I just have to hold the left-hand side down. So this wheel well gets close to the handle of the razor blade. So I'll do the bottom part here first, and then I'll switch to the top part. Or, you know what I think is going on there? I think the hole for the razor blade is right there. But it's definitely close to the handle. So here I'll just kind of hope for the best, because I can't really hold it down everywhere. And again, this is where working in really light layers, I do it with the airbrush anyway all the time, but especially in an instance like this where I can't really hold down everything, if I'm spraying really light layers, there's less of a chance of a bunch of spray going underneath and going where I don't want it to, because I'm putting on so little paint, it doesn't really have the chance to do that, which is nice. Should be good. Let's do the front wheel well. Can you see that around the magnet? Probably not. Okay, move that a little bit. Actually, I'll slide this over. That might be easier. Try to center that. So same deal here. This is up on the handle of the blade. I really should hold the top part here. So we'll do that. Do this without getting in the way. Yeah, should be good. This is a really small cutout right here, so it's not going to move around as much as some of the bigger cutouts would. But I'm still going to go slow, especially here, because I can see the paint going on, but I can't really see the paint hitting the surface in that tiny little cutout. So I just got to kind of do it the way I usually do it, with a bunch of light layers, and just kind of have faith, you know? Just have faith in the process and the way that the paint goes on in light layers. Again, I really can't see it, and the tendency is to want to hammer it to get it done. All right, so the outline around the window in the back is tricky because it does cross the handle of the razor blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the top part that's on the handle, and by the handle I mean that top grip, you know, the aluminum part of the single edge blade. So I'll hold as much down as I can again, but this time I'm not going to go down onto the bottom part where the blade is. Just going to kind of hit the top part first. Sorry, you can't see. Yeah, I gotta figure this out. I'll figure out the camera sooner or later. By the end of the blade, I'll figure it out. All right, so the bottom part, this is where it gets tricky, because it's right on the handle, right on the handle part of the blade. And that's what happens is if I'm not careful, I get a bunch of spray, because the handle is holding the template up above the surface. So I'm going to first try to fold that down a little bit with my fingernail, just like I did before. Just kind of crease that to give myself a little bit more chance to get this clean. And then same thing, really, really light layers. Just let the paint kind of sneak through that opening that I cut out and not hit it really hard, because if it's wet, when it goes through, it's going to spider web underneath and make a mess, and then that defeats the purpose. All right, so did I get everything that I needed to? I think I did. Let's drop that off, and heck yeah, I'm happy with that. There's a gap over here, but that's not bad. That's pretty much Pyro Red anyway, so we'll clean that up. Same thing down here. There's some stuff going on there too, but all in all, I'm happy with that. This bottom edge is killing me though. I don't know what I missed pretty hard on this. Plus that, actually, I was gonna say the shadow is really too dark, but I'm not sure that it is. So let's clean up those few spots before moving on. So I still have, this is Pyro Red, white and black, and I was doing another painting, and that's cobalt blue. I might need that. And then there's this poor brush. So this is one of my Winsor & Newton brushes. It is technically brand new. I got it about a week ago. But this brush, I don't know why, but this brush is like cursed. I have bent the ferrule. I've gotten it jammed. I think I rolled over it with a chair. I've done everything to this brush in the first week, and I've never had I've never had a brush just like take so much abuse right out of the gate. I feel super bad. All right, but it still works. You know, the ferrule's all wonky and, you know, it kind of goes sideways, but the bristles are good. All right, so I'm going to grab some of this red, Pyro Red, because we're going to fix some of the little issues before I move on. Like here's a good one, right where the wheel well is. That, you know, that wasn't cut out right. A little bit of a miss there, which is fine. You know, that's part of the game. These things are so tiny that it's tough to get it like super perfect right out of the gate. So there is a lot of adjustment that goes on with them, which I'm okay with. It's half the fun. You know, that's really what the battle of these blade paintings are. This, again, I feel really like something's going on there, but I don't know what it is yet. Either I missed and made the body too low. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I cut this out too low. So that's easy. I'll fix this part with black. If it was the other way around, that would have been a problem. For instance, if I had this shadow too high and that's what caused that gap, then I have to kind of match the shadow with this bottom strip down here, but it's not. It looks like I just, when I cut out the car, I cut out a little bit too big, or I had it shifted down a little bit. All right, still going to clean that up too, but this is the one I want right here next to the rear deck window. I want to kind of close that gap right there. That's good. The front of the car bugs me too. I don't know what's going on over here. I think, oh, there are reflections. That's why I don't have it. So I'm going to, because the reflections in the very front of the car are of something else, I'm going to just eliminate them for now. If I want to indicate them later, I can always put them back in, but it just felt like the front of the car was chopped off, which is not good. Anything else I got to do here? No, I think that's good. So next we'll switch to black. All right. Again, this is just Createx Opaque Black. So everything on the palette except for the blue is the opaque line, which I'm trying to use, not trying to, it's just organically happening. I'm using more of the opaque line as like my base colors. It's just, it works out really well because the colors are so strong and opaque, which is nice. And then, you know, to add the rest of the line into it is very cool. So I'm having a good time with that. So the, you know, any chance to use, you know, any of the opaque colors, I jump on it as base, you know, and then I can work from there. This little red gap down here that I was talking about, I can take that out now too. Now, this guy right here is the next one. So the one we were just talking about. That little red line right there. So just grab a little bit more black. And just going to cut this out. So instead of just like nailing this, I'm going to kind of shave it back. So I'm going to work on one edge. And that way I can kind of sneak up on that instead of just trying to hit it in one shot and then, you know, have something possibly miss or go wrong. sneaking up on it like this will just let me kind of get it without worrying about it too much, you know, screwing it up really. Because again, at this point, to fix the car, the shadowed part of the car is not as easy as some of the other repairs would be, because you have this like shadow that's airbrushed on and it's faded and everything. So to recreate that in a very small area in that would be really, really tough. So I don't want that. All right. Good, good, good. That highlight right there bugs me, but we'll get to that. This exhaust, where the exhaust comes out. There's a little gap right there that I don't want. And the red too, gotta go like that. So how close are you? Hopefully you can see that. So there is a very small bright red kind of edge right here where this shadow here didn't bump up exactly where it needed to. So here's what I'm talking about. In this area, it's so small, it's not gonna be a big deal. But if it was a bigger area, matching that fade, that red, you know, black over red right there would be tough. But here it's such a small area. I could take some really washed out black, so it's black with a bunch of reducer, and then just kind of dry brush over it a couple times, let it dry. Oops, like that. You don't want that to happen, which is a little pool of paint right there. So let that dry a little bit. Still kind of make sure the brush is pretty dry. And then once that dries, and it doesn't take long, just go over it another time. And then wait, let that dry. And then hit it again. So it's a good way to kind of build it up like the airbrush would have put it on, but you're using the paintbrush instead, which is nice. All right, good. I'm happy with that. Here we go. Between this episode and next episode, I might move the camera again, try a new shot. I don't know. Like I said, it's the never-ending try to get this to where it looks good. Okay, do I want to deal with the stripe on the back yet, or do I want to... This stripe is so hard to see, which is good, but it also makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of manage. I think I'm going to do the stripe, because it's going to come through here, and then I'll do the details on that. So the stripe, I'm going to use the same really overly reduced black. So the stripe is... You can see a little bit of it. Oops, make sure this is really dry. Again, by dry brush, I mean I take almost all the paint out of it, so that when I'm painting with this color, I'm not leaving like that. Like I just kind of put it on here and it left a little pool at the end of the stroke. I don't want that. So what I want is when I put it down, it just ends, you know? And that's hard with the paintbrush, because the paintbrush is designed to hold a bunch of paint. So if you take all that paint out, first you only have a short window to work with it before the brush dries out. But again, for these like really minute details, it's fine. You know, I don't need it. I don't need the brush to paint for an hour, you know. So there it is. So really subtle in there, just kind of dropping that detail in with it's a main stripe, and then it has a little pinstripe on the, I say pinstripe, but it's probably about 1 inch wide, and that's on the outside edge. So kind of continue that down the bottom here. Again, it's just barely, you can barely see it, which is nice in the back. There isn't too many places you can actually see it except on the side where like the same vinyl graphics are used on the side of it, of the car. But this main stripe that goes through the whole car, it's like I said, it's really tough to see because of the angle of the car and the reflections and everything. So you have to indicate it. That looks good. So the only thing I'm really missing here is the shadow, which I have this, again, I have a really dry brush here, so I can kind of put that line in there, anticipating spraying it later. So again, that sets that edge for me. And I'll bump up this edge here. It's a little bit darker. This black really reduced is nice for this, because it still lets all the red show through. And then I have the body line between the back side of the car and the rear quarter, and then the marker light on the side too. But I'm going to wait on those. Let me finish the back first, and then we'll creep around to the side and finish all those details. I don't know what I'm going to do with the license plate yet. I may just leave it the way it is. I may put something on there, but there's no super big decision to be made right away. Like, I don't have to make that decision. So I'm gonna hold off on that. Something will hit me. I think originally we talked about putting like the horse, like the little Mustang on there, which might be a good idea. If I do that, it'll be just a step above or a step lighter, a step darker than this license plate. I don't want it super like in your face. I want it to be subtle. It's just the plate is just too big right there. If I put something really strong there, it's going to just draw your eye to it, and I don't want that. So next I have this really pale blue, and this will give me the top edge of the muffler tip here as the light hits that. And the same on the other side, which is just barely visible. But we'll get that in there anyway. Okay, so that's the muffler tips. Yeah, I'm going to change the camera angle for the next episode. So you'll be more head on. And so what we're going to trade is, instead of having my hand in the way, my head's going to be bumping it all the time. But like I said, we'll figure it out. So the next part is the highlight on that plastic skirt. So I've got the phthalo blue, and I was mixing up a kind of a stone gray color on the other painting, so I'll be able to use the same color for this because it's exactly the color I want. I want like a really pale blue. Actually, I want it even darker than that. I was just looking at it. If I put this on here, this color right here, it's gonna look white. So we want a lot darker color. So we're just gonna grab right out of this. It's probably still gonna be too bright, but we'll see what happens. Okay. I'll tell you in a second. Yep, it's too bright. That's okay. So, grab a little bit more of the darker one up here. This poor brush. Ferrule's all mangled. I can't believe it. And I jammed it like over and over again too. Like I think the chair rolled over it. It fell on the floor, and then I hit it with the chair. I think, and then I definitely jammed it in the Visionaire. Like the Visionaire has this track that goes around the whole side of it, and I somehow just jammed it in there as I was trying to put it away. It was crazy. Like I said, this poor thing is just like in 1 week it's gotten more abuse than all of my other brushes combined. But, these things are rock stars, as long as you don't screw up the roundness of the ferrule, where the brush bristles come out right there, it's going to keep forming the same point. So, all right, so this part of this lower skirt kind of fades into nothing. So I'm going to kind of paint the highlight in and then just drag this out a little bit. So I'll be able to hit that really lightly with black and then just kind of fade that out. Looks really good. I like those. Those are good. That's good. Yeah, and then with the black, I can also do the rest of the shading there too, on the back of the car, and that's crazy subtle, which we probably won't get to on this episode, but it's where I will pick up on the next one. So I'm going to grab some white now, and we're going to end this episode with a bit of coolness. This white has almost had it. It's just, it's on the wet palette, but, it gets to the point where it's just, it's been too evaporated and re-evaporated, I guess, if that's a word. Okay, so we're going to do Shelby letters now. So this is fun because, your brain wants to actually put in the letters, but you can't read them. They're too small. So the trick is to kind of resist that ability or that want to form all the letters, like the Y and the, all of them. And by doing that, like if you just kind of paint what you see there, you know, it works out much better. Because if I try to get those letters and actually paint them, they're going to be bigger than they should, because I can't, you know, you can't paint that small. I mean, you can, but, you know, for this, it's like, you know, no one's going to be looking at this through a microscope. If you were, however, you know, then yeah, you'd have to find a way to get this like super micro small. But I don't, you know, as small as I love my art to be, I don't really ever see it being, you know, that kind of thing. Like the amazing artists that do the work on, like the little tiny sculptures and the head of pins and all that stuff. Yeah, that's amazing, but that's not what I'm going for. So the very last step that I did while I was talking was I took a little bit of black and kind of tucked in a few little shadows on that. Again, if I could zoom in more, you would see that they're not real letters, but they read as the letters, so you know they're Shelby. All right, so welcome back, everyone, and that was great. So if you would like to support what I do here, you can do what these lovely people have done. And you can support by being a member here on YouTube, which is fun. You get a bunch of perks for that. You can also head over to Patreon if you are not into being a member here and you just want to support what I do monthly. That's amazing. You can also hit that like button and click that subscribe button if you'd like to see more content. That would also really, really help me out. All right, so for Steve Leahy and Open Studio and the Shelby Mustang Blade, I will catch you guys next time.